Welcome to Seek Reality with Roberta Grimes. Joyous conversations about what the afterlife evidence and modern science combine to tell us is true about our one reality. You have nothing to fear. You are eternal and you are perfectly loved. Knowing the truth changes everything. Now, here's Roberta.
Welcome to Seek Reality. I'm Roberta Grimes, and I'm so delighted you're with us today. Normally we do pretty interesting guests, but most of them are sort of on the happy side of the spiritual spectrum. And our Seek Reality guest this week is unusual because her story is pretty unusual for us. Allie Crawford is her pen name and not her real name, because she's protecting herself from baddies in her family's scary past. Now, this is unusual. She's not hiding from the law, you understand. She's laughing at that. She's hiding from bad spirits. In her book, which is just out, called Heaven Help Us, she talks about her awful childhood and her son Jake's visions and the frightening things that she says happened to her family, and that she tells us were confrontations with dark and dangerous forces in spiritual and also physical planes. Those who are familiar with the Bible know that Jesus was removing spirits sometimes from people. And they think those stories, and some of them were a little bit scary, were metaphorical tales. And those demons could not possibly have been real demons. They weren't real, were they, Roberta? Well, yeah, they were real. And such demonish creatures still do exist even today, although most modern people never encounter them or even hear of them, because nearly every modern person's spiritual vibrations are high enough we can avoid them. And listen carefully to what I'm saying now, because this is important, and I very rarely, although I have in the past, I rarely find someone who is near enough to negative spirits that we can talk about this phenomenon here. But our guest today has been in the presence of negative entities. So we're going to get to talk a little bit about what happens when you are in those entities' presence. And this is not an always cheerful thing to talk about. In fact, she has seen shadow men, and shadow men are very real indeed. I'm just going to talk about this for a minute. Shadow men are the most common, very low vibration, modern nasties you ever are going to hear about. And there's a shadow man in Allie's book. I came across him and I thought, whoa, fascinating. They are very evil. Shadow men look like, you know the old-fashioned opera capes? They are black beings, not black in the positive sense, black in the negative sense. They're dressed in long capes. They have a top hat. In her case, this guy had a dog. And in her case, she actually saw it. They both had sort of hollow red eyes, and they're negative as can be. They're so negative that in order for them even to exist, they have to feed on negativity. So that is negative. They try to scare us in the dark. And the people that they try to scare are very small children, because frankly, most adults look at them and they say, I'm not afraid of you because you're so weird. I can't even believe you exist. And then they disappear. But if you are afraid of the dark, then there may be a very good reason. When you were tiny, you may have seen one of these guys. They lurk in closets in order to scare people, tiny kids. If a shadow man latches onto a small child, and if people don't believe, Mommy, I'm scared of the dark, and give that kid a nightlight, it's possible that they will be able to cling to that person, even as an adult, and be a problem for that person's whole life. So if your kid says, Mommy, I'm scared of the dark, put a nightlight in that child's room. And that's all I'm going to say about it, because I don't even like to think about these things. The book is called Heaven Help Us. It's a brief and fascinating book. It's just over 100 pages long. And I was so fascinated by it that I actually put aside work this week to try to finish the book. I didn't quite finish it. But it's about how using spiritual good, which is God's pure love, to fight disgusting and shameful pure evil, especially including religious evil, believe it or not, is a winner every time. That's what Jesus did, and that's what we can do too. And Allie, I just think your book is great. Our guest this week calls herself Allie Crawford, but as I say, it's just her pen name. It's not her real name. And we are delighted to actually have her with us to talk about her book today. Allie, welcome.
Thank you, Roberta. I'm so grateful that you have me on. And I'm happy to be here to talk about my experience with these spirits, evil spirits, and my experiences, or my son's experiences with God. It's really a spiritual, we went on a spiritual journey. So where do you go from there?
It's actually quite a dramatic book. Emily had an awful childhood, and that's what I really attribute a lot of what happened to her family to. She had some negative people in her life, and she didn't really, when you don't have a good upbringing, I think you have to try at least to know how to parent yourself. And she did have a good dad, as I saw it, who eventually kind of helped her get a better bit of later parenting in her life, and that helped a lot. But it was not, and a good family. You had a good family in your young adult life. But tell us a little bit of your story and kind of how this all got going.
Well, interesting thing is when I was a kid, the reason why I brought my childhood up in the book is because I wanted my audience to understand, because of my experience with my stepfather. He was a religious guy. He forced me into a religion that I didn't even know, because I didn't even know there was a God, because my parents are both atheists. And it was against my dad's wishes. My dad never pushed religion because he was a scientist, so he didn't believe in stuff like that. And my mother it just didn't fly with her, so she just wasn't a religious person. But he forced me into something, and then along with that came, abuse. But take shadow people and put them aside. There's more demons out there than just shadow people. There are witches, old demons. And one thing that I have learned, because I've done so much research, because I want to know why. Why am I seeing this? Why is this happening? And I believe that there can be a generational demon, like a witch, something that goes on to a great grandmother or grandfather, and so on and so on and so on. And I think that did happen to my mother. And as you read my book, Heaven Help Us, you will see in there how that progressed, because it comes to you at your darkest moments. It comes to you when you're maybe sad or a little depressed. And I'm not a depressed person. I'm a super happy, outgoing gal. But I was in a dark space with my stepfather and mother, constant arguing. And it was just like you were saying, Roberta, if there's chaos or something, it does bring things like that into your life. So, we stayed away from all religions forever. I got married to I escaped my mother and my stepfather. I married a young man, and we had a wonderful, absolutely wonderful life. We finished law school. We're living in Southern California, living the dream. Motorcycling.
Beautiful. It got really, you're fortunate you found a good man.
Yeah. Oh, I did, and this is how I look at it. I did go and I got a little therapy, because I wanted to make sure that I was okay from my childhood. And there's no anger, no hate. It's like, this is a different person now. And I've learned from what happened to me, and I became a better person. So what is it? Breaking the cycle? For sure, I did that. And there's no ill will. I mean, like I said, I kind of think it's something that, and I'm going to bring this to full circle. I feel that when I was a child, I was trying to be stopped from moving on with my future. Do you know what I'm saying? I did have strange thoughts because I couldn't see a way out of that situation. And it was things that I probably shouldn't have been thinking of as a 14, 15-year-old girl. But I was in a very bad situation with no help. And why don't children say something? I don't know. Neither did I. I don't know. So moving forward, I married this fantastic husband. And I do believe that these forces, because I saw things when I was a child, but, I just thought, I didn't think they were real because I don't even know about stuff like that. You don't know what you don't know. So
let's say that again. You don't know what you don't know. Profound.
Yeah, exactly.
Wisdom. That's right.
So, when I had my kids, our life was so fantastic. I mean, this is horrible to say, but when my husband, my son had this dream or vision, whatever it is, of God, kind of put a damper on that, right? Because we have to address it. And God is a lot of hard work, because when you know God, just so y'all know, if you guys want to know if there's a demon or if they really exist, go find God, because here you are, you're on this world, and these angels, these fallen angels are looking down, you see this beautiful world, and all of a sudden someone's looking for God, and you got this bright streak of light. Because when you're looking for God, you're gonna glow. Your spirit's gonna glow, right? And they say, oh my gosh, there's a beacon. And these things were with God at one time. They felt warmth and love and everything. Now they're in the cold, they're dark. And they're gray, like the soul, the gray world. They're there, but we can't see them. But they strive to be warm again, to feel the love again, and that's why they want you. So when you're glowing very, very brightly, you're going to have a ton more demons coming at you, and that's exactly what happened to us. Go ahead.
May I just say something? It doesn't attract demons for you to be happy, but if you are not yourself yet vibrating higher,
Mm-hmm.
it can, if you, until your spiritual vibrations are higher, you can possibly attract those who are lower if you are not yet protected.
100%.
That could be, it could be that your negative childhood, or if, as you say, you might have had some generational baggage that attracted those demons.
See, it's interesting about that too, Roberta. I was aware it didn't feel right. I was aware that something wasn't right. And I don't know how I know that, but it just feels a bit shady.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to do my investigation and try to figure out what that is.
Right.
So when my children saw the Hat Man and things like this happen, because of my child, I always listen to my kids, and they're not liars, and I know what TV programs they watch. I mean, it's strictly SpongeBob SquarePants and Scooby-Doo.
So it's very interesting that when they were small, like four is a little old to first see. You call it the Hat Man, I call it the Shadow Man. Same thing. They always have this top hat.
Yeah.
It's usually it's around 2 that they start to see that Hat Man, that Shadow Man. But they're attracted because there's some low level energy in the home. That's what attracted them. And so they told you about that Shadow Man, and the fact that you yourself were happy, your family was happy, it wasn't sure whether it could find room for itself in that house. And in the end, it could not, because there was too much happiness in that house.
Yeah.
Fascinating situation that you really present for us to see. Yeah. But I'm sure you let enough light into that room that the demon that it was could not stay. But these are surprisingly common demons, let me just tell you. Unusually common. So very lucky that you were able to chase it away.
Well, to me, that was actually an easy demon to get rid of, to be honest with you, Roberta. I've had far worse. And if you'd like me to tell that story, I'd love to tell you. If
Okay,
you want
go
to be
ahead.
scared, you guys want to be scared. So my son, Jake, the 13-year-old that had these dreams about the Lord, he would hear a banging on his door. And we had a pretty decent sized house, you know, and he heard this banging on the door. And every night kept happening. And he would open his door and he'd like, knock it off. And he would yell at his older brother, Matt. And he'd say, knock it off, stop banging on my door. And Matt was like, I'm not doing it. And Sydney, my daughter, she's young. She's like, you know, 6, 7, 8, just a young kid. And my husband travels a lot. So I'm home alone with the kids a lot. And so Sydney was sleeping with me. So we're not banging on the door. And Matt was up studying at night and had his door ajar. And he heard footsteps, heavy. And when you hear footsteps, you guys, they're not light. They're very heavy, like whatever being this is, or man, or whatever it is, it's a very heavy, daunting footstep. And he heard the footsteps, and we had wood floors upstairs, and it was a decent-sized house. And then all of a sudden, he heard scratching down the wall, okay, which is strange. That's strange. I mean, yeah, you're in Southern California, and we do have rats. They could be going through the walls. I don't care how fancy your house is. It doesn't matter where you're at. You could have rats in your walls. So, you know, this is me, because, you know, when you're an atheist, you don't think, oh, it's supernatural. Oh, this is a demon. You don't think like that.
Yeah, right.
You
right,
think there's
exactly.
got to be a logical explanation on why this is happening. And I always went that way. So did my husband. All right. But all of a sudden we heard the bang, bang, bang at the door. And Matt jumped up because he heard Jake jump out of bed. And he opened the door, and Jake opened the door, and he says, I heard that. So he went into my bed. They both said, let's go tell mom. So they went into my bedroom, and they were telling me. And of course, you know, I'm a cool mom because, you know, when I was a kid, no one's listening to me. I always listen to my kids because they just don't lie. And I always tell my kids, if you do something, no matter how bad it is, just tell me the truth and we'll deal with it together. And you won't get in trouble. So I never gave them fear not to tell me what was going down. So I said, okay, next night we're going to test this thing out. So we all, the next night, stood by the side of our door. All right. But we closed the doors, and we all stood at the side of our door, all three of us. And I had Sydney hide in the closet, my master bedroom closet, because she's a child. And I wanted her to hide because I don't know what if it is a man? Okay. You know, I'm still there. Okay. So what if it really is a man and someone's breaking into my house at night? I don't know. You know, my husband's not here, so I don't know. So anyway, all of a sudden, 10, 15, 20 minutes go by, and then the footsteps started. I'm like, okay. So I told him we don't open the doors till we hear the bang. And then I heard the scratching on that wall. And it sounded like claws scratching down the wall. And all of a sudden, we heard the bang. All three of us opened the door. Now, if you think the Hat Man is scary, sister, meet this boy. This is a hooded creature, and we've seen this multiple times. It doesn't have a face.
Yeah.
It levitates. It has claws or fingers. It doesn't have a face. And I was stung because this cannot be happening. This isn't real. Because I'm an adult. This isn't real. This isn't real. But my son, Matt, is so brave. He's my oldest boy. He's my attorney right now. And he started saying, don't laugh because we don't know. All we know is what we saw in The Exorcist or some kind of scary show. In the power of Christ, we compel you because we don't know what to do because it's not human. It floats and it's black. And the power of Christ compels you. And I'm like, yeah, power of Christ compels you. Power of Christ compels you. And Jake just stood there because I think he was like, holy crap. And so Matt literally very strong. And he is a big boy. Even in high school, he was 6'2". He's now 6'4". He literally kept saying, in the power of Christ, I compel you. And he kept pushing it back. And it did move back towards the stairs going back down. I grabbed the kids. We all ran in my bedroom and I slammed the door because I'm like, I just needed to get a hold of myself because this cannot be real. Okay. And we're all sitting, I pick up the phone and I'm talking to my husband on the phone, telling him what's going on. And I kid you not, the door started shaking. the handle of the door. And as a mom, how many times we fold clothes, Roberta? I had hangers hanging on that door, and the hanger started swinging back and forth. I almost lost it because fear is, you guys, you know what fear is? You can't move, you can't breathe, you can't talk. I'm just, and
I'm sorry.
And all of a sudden, my son Matt, my oldest boy, and I call him the protector. He's so brave. He darts out, slams the door behind him. It's dark out there, and you just have the lights from the stairs, those little teeny lights at the bottom. And I threw the phone at Jake and I said, stay on with your daddy. And I told my daughter, get into the closet. I wanted her to hide. And so, yeah, as terrified as I am, guys, I looked at that door and I'm not going to let anything happen to my boy. So as scared as my heart, I could hear my heartbeat in my ears. I'm like, is that okay? I dart out that door and I'm running down the hall and I saw my son, Matt, kneeling in the dark at the top of the stairs, praying. And I put my hand on his shoulder, and I'm shaking everywhere. And I knelt down, and I just started praying. Now, I don't know who this God is, and I don't know anything about crap, but I'm telling you, I'm praying to this God right now. And we did that, and that thing did float down those stairs and out that door, okay? I went back in my bedroom, and I go into my closet and I tell Sydney, come on out. She's hiding in the corner underneath the clothes in the very back. And she asked me why I was walking around in my closet because she could see my feet walking around. Yeah, what is that? And I'm just like, I grabbed her and we all slept in the same room for months because we needed to sleep. From that point forward, I just want you to know, I've walked into Jake's room and that same creature is floating over him. Now, I call them vampires. Okay? They're far worse than your hat man. Whatever those things are, I don't know. I'd like to know. If anyone knows anything, I'd like to know what that is. Either way.
They're demons.
I what are they doing here? Because you know what? We're good folks. We don't, just, you know.
Yeah, but the thing, what I believe is probably happening in your case, in that case, is that you came from such a bad background. I mean, reading about your childhood, those are some nasty people, especially your stepfather that you were living with. Yeah. And you also say that you had probably some generational issues that are going on too.
My mother. Yeah. Mm-hmm. She's a hardcore atheist, even to this day. She does not believe in anything, nothing. And no matter what, I've never told my family what happened to me.
You see, there are some people who delight in dealing with baddies, like these bad demons. Yeah. And they carry them forward and they deal with them. Yeah. In certain houses. They have brought so many demons into those houses that those houses literally have to be torn down.
Yeah, I think that my mother,
demons.
I think my mother was an opening. I do. I think that it was what happened with my mother. I mean, it was interesting. So one time I did talk to her, you know, about, do you believe in God? Do you believe there's a God? She laughed. She goes, there's no God. And she says, that's silly. And, you know, I felt at that time in my life, like, holy crap, you know, how can you say that? Because you don't know. And like you said, we don't know what we don't know, but how can you just brush something like that off? Aren't you curious? Aren't you curious?
Well, the problem is, though, that the demons are real.
Yeah.
I mean, if you read the Gospels, you see Jesus dealing with them. Right. They are real things. I mean, I've done a lot of study about what they are, where they come from. Many of them, in fact, arguably, probably all of them, were originally people who chose not to, for whatever reason, chose not to properly transition, chose to stay here because we are all eternal. They can't die. Instead, they can choose to stay here and go to the dark side. And
that's fascinating. Yeah, that's fascinating that you said that. Yeah. We did some research on that. We actually did a little podcast on that thing and on our YouTube video. And what happens is we believe is that people that they have unfinished business or that can't or don't believe in God at all, like my mother, where do you go? I mean, who seeks you? Who comes and gets you? Where do you go? You can't go into the light because you don't even believe there is a light.
If you refuse to transition and to go properly home, you can become earthbound.
100%.
If you become earthbound,
right,
you can get slimier and more disgusting the longer you stay earthbound.
Yeah, it's almost like, remember, you watch that show at Stranger Things and there's a gray world? I think there's a gray world. And I think they're right there. They can see us. They want to touch us. They want to be with us. But, you know, the longer they're there, the colder and more evil they get because they're angry, you know.
But the thing is, they vibrate very, very low.
Yeah.
So they can't really do anything to harm you, but they can infect you.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Possess you. If you allow yourself to vibrate low enough yourself, they can take over your body.
Yeah. And I believe
that'd be pretty disgusting.
It would. And I believe that you're right. But I think there's more out there than just ghosts or people that turn into demons. I think there are.
It's hard to know. I mean, it may be that they came from another realm in some other galaxy. Who knows?
Yeah. Well, I think, what about the fallen angels? I mean, where did they go? He sent how many to this planet? What about...
we don't know. Some of that's folklore. I don't know how much of that is real. I've not studied it.
Yeah. I mean, well, how many cast of heaven?
For sure, there are, because we cannot die, even if we're the most disgusting person who ever lived, that person couldn't die either.
Yep, I agree.
And so where is he now? Well, he's probably a very low-level being. I mean, this creature inside in the Cape, who knows how low he's vibrating?
Yeah.
But you just don't want him. You don't want him to get near your body because talk about being infected with a germ. That's a pretty disgusting germ.
Right. And then you bring up doppelgangers. Have you heard of those? You don't know about it? Google, look at doppelgangers, because I didn't even know what they were until it happened. So it's really interesting. It's where you'll hear someone call your name out and you think it's your mom, or you think it's your brother, or you think it's your child. It was nobody.
Yes.
Or you'll see.
I know what you're talking about. Yeah. The point is, you've got to stay spiritually pure. Right. Because we come here to learn and grow spiritually, so we don't ever have to come back.
That's right.
You can make this your last earth lifetime, and you really want to do that. Because every time you come back, there's a risk that you
Huge risk.
You could lower your vibration, and the last thing you want to do is get any closer in vibration to those things. You want to raise your vibration. If you vibrate high enough, you'll never have to come back.
Yeah,
it happened this lifetime.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. I think that we did come here. We have to learn things. And for my family, I think for everybody, every house is open to demonic activity, because they're like vampires. They're hungry. They want to feel the warmth, the light. They want to be
But my dear one, your house doesn't have to be open to anything. If you're vibrating high enough, you can protect yourself, your family, and everybody else.
Right.
You get near you.
Exactly. And what we do with our house is we do, everyone says their prayers at night. And, oftentimes you play sweet music. Stay away from Ouija boards. Stay away from evil shows. I mean,
Absolutely.
There's
stay away from Ouija boards. Stay away from any kind of entertainment that is low vibration.
Exactly.
Absolutely right.
Yeah, I mean, and that's how we do it. It's a way. It's a lifestyle. It's actually a way of living. You can keep those things out, but it takes time to learn that. And like you were saying, at the end of the day, you have to face the fact that these things are real, that they are out there, and that's something we're all in danger with, because we're just living. Look at my, people that I know, just people never read the Bible, and that was me. Just so you know, before my son had his vision of God and the end of the world, or whatever it is. I never read the Bible. I had no interest in God. It's interesting is I did believe in God because when I was desperate, I did pray to God. So maybe out of desperation, but I never carried it with me because it was always triggered to my childhood. But the people out there that know nothing about the spiritual world or about God or any of that, they are subjected. It's possible just going to a movie. Do you ever watch?
People think it's fun to go to a scary movie. The last thing you should ever do is go to a scary movie. Oh my goodness, because you mess with your own vibration at that point.
There was that show, Skidmore Question, they're saying hitchhikers. They hitchhike. So if you know them or they see you or they meet you, they can hitchhike and follow you home. How many people learn how to get rid of a demon? I mean, I actually self-taught myself. I read my butt off. Matt and I did so much reading of the Bible, but then we were thinking, okay, is the Bible it? Because we've never been to church before. So we started bringing in every book, the Book of Enoch, Tertullian, every book you can imagine, every Jewish text that we can afford to buy, we bought. And so we learned so much because where do you go? Who do you talk to? Because it's not like I'm going to tell people there's like things floating around my house and a hat man standing with my kids because I think you're wacko. I thought we were wacko. I'm just like, this is crazy. I feel like I'm on the crazy train, but it's happening, so I can't ignore it. And I'm going to protect my children. Any mother, any father, when your child is frightened or they say something, we need to listen.
Yes, believe your child. If the child sees something funny or strange or is scared, believe the child.
Because they don't lie. And I know my son saw what he saw.
Yeah.
And I can't doubt that because he didn't know. And why would he? I mean, it's totally out of his character or who he is. And I mean, I just feel that everybody should just get a little bit more savvy, do a little bit more research. I mean, the Bible is difficult to read, and I understand that. And it gets a little depressing because it's always, you're doing this wrong, you're doing this wrong. It's always very negative because you need to do right by God. But if they actually understood, the Bible is trying to warn you, there's evil floating right. I mean, I think if you could just open your eyes and we could have that second sight, probably see them. And it's just trying to protect us. And it's reiterating that over and over and over. And that's when I got the big picture to realize, okay, now I understand why the Bible's trying to scare me, because I should be afraid. So,
you shouldn't be afraid. You should be loving. Love and forgive, Jesus said. And forgiving is very important because it raises your vibration. Everything that raises your vibration is what you should be doing.
Right. And at the end of the day, by the time it comes where it's your time to go, you can't, like I said, I have no ill will towards anybody.
Yes.
How I look at it is it's made me a 10 times better person. And I am so grateful that these things kind of did come my way, because at the end of the day, I never would have known there was a God. And I never would have known that these things were possible if those things didn't happen to me. So I can honestly thank them for coming my way, because of what happened to me, they made me find God. So
yes,
salute. I mean, that's how I look at it. I don't know. I think that backfired on them, because I think I'm a powerful, I got a lot to say. My book is out and people can read my book. I have a podcast going now that I'm starting to talk about through I've got a full-time company that I'm running as well. But this is so important. God is cool. I don't want money. I don't want anything from it.
That's something else to cross-stitch and hang on the wall. God is...
He's cool, man.
Cool.
This is it. You know what? I was just a housewife, and all this happened. All this happened, and I started digging in and finding God. I've been to heck and back, okay? Because, that is just, oh, my gosh. Now I'm running a successful business. I got 2 attorneys, and my daughter's in tech. And you know what? Life is awesome. God is good. And none of that would have happened if I didn't find him. So I thank these demons because they did me a solid. So hey, you got 5 more people going to heaven, and I'm going to bring as many more as I can. And
Yeah.
I'm pushing I'm trying to get this my podcast going. I really want to get it going. The boys are going. I mean, they're finding supernatural history TV, and they've got all this history stuff coming up about really kind of crazy things. And now I'm kind of lightening up. I brought someone on to help me work, and I'm going to start spending more time on that podcast, and get that going, because I think people need to know there's a God. And thank you, Roberta. There are demons, and we all need to be super careful.
There are demons.
I mean, what?
The demons are vibrating so low that they cannot possibly touch you, provided you've raised your own vibration high enough. And it's, as you point out, my darling, it is easy to do.
That's
Just
right.
love and forgive.
That's right.
The prophet Micah, everyone talks about the big shot prophet. So little prophet Micah, 1,000 years before Jesus, what did he say? He said, "What does the Lord require of you but that you do justice and love mercy and walk humbly with your God?"
Yep.
That's all.
Everything that we are, everything he does, he allowed that to happen to me. And, I'm not a religious freak. I don't belong to any denomination, because religion still scares.
Religion
Scary.
lowers your vibration.
I think my vibration is.
There is no religion that raises it. They all lower it. So you're wise that you do not belong to any religion. They don't help.
I 100%.
Jesus helps, because Jesus teaches you to love and forgive and be grateful.
You're right.
Those are the 3 rules. Love, forgive, and be grateful. And Jesus is the one who teaches us that better than anybody else does.
You're 100% right. We actually thought, okay, so now that these things are going on, we started looking at religions. And every time we went to these churches or these religions, you got a guy, you got to pay me this much tithing, and then you got to give me this if you're not eating. Then I got a guy, well, if you want us to say a prayer over, you got to give us this much money. And I'm thinking, yeah, this feels kind of nauseating, sick to my stomach. I believe what I have learned and all the research I had, and if you guys read my book, there's a picture of God in there. This is what my son saw. There's a picture of a great war in heaven that's happening. And Roberta, you probably know more about that stuff than I, but it's happening. And there's a picture of the wheat fields. There's a picture of the demons. So, Roberta, look through that book, because there are pictures of some of those demons in there that we've witnessed. And I believe from everything that we researched, because, we went to the Middle East, and we did the whole Moses thing for a whole month. We went into Egypt, down the Nile. We went into the river. We went into Jordan. We went up where Moses ascended in heaven with the U.S. military, and then we went into the River Jordan, watched all those boys with their pastor get baptized. Went into Turkey, where Mary, Jesus' mother, spent her last days. We went to the burning bush in St. Catherine's. It's now being taken over by the Egyptians, and met the monks there. We went on a spiritual journey to find God, and what we learned out of that, you guys, is between you and the big guy.
What does the Lord require of you but that you do justice, you love mercy, and you walk humbly with your God?
Yep.
1,000 years before Jesus. That's what the prophet Micah said. And Jesus says now, just love, forgive, and be grateful. That's it.
Yep. And people do bad things to you, it's all good.
Yeah,
it's all good.
You just forgive.
It's another lesson you just learned.
See, you've learned a lot from these experiences, haven't you, my dear?
Everybody, you have no idea what I've gone through, man. Honestly, after all the things that happened to us, all I want to do is hide. And I've moved 3 times. I'm just hiding. I have not, so much has happened to me.
I think it's good you got out of that house, because that house was pretty infested.
You know what? It follows you, but you got to keep it going. You got to keep up with the harmony in the house. I don't argue with my husband. I've been married 40 years. I don't argue with my husband. I don't argue with my children. They all just graduated. They all came back to the house because they're all now looking for work and starting their thing. But, you just got to keep, I am just so grateful the things that I've learned, and we have a very happy, wonderful life. And we always, well, life is precious and it's awesome. And I love the fact that there are people like you, Roberta, out there telling the world about your vibrations, because I 100% agree with that. I'm a very happy person. And no matter what happened to me as a child, that was then, this is now. That's not who I am.
Yeah, exactly. And as long as you keep your vibrations high, my dear, they cannot touch you.
Rock on.
Yeah, it's like you're on the 11th floor and they're in the basement. That's
right.
true. Those negative vibration beings, they cannot get near you.
That's right. There needs to be more of you out there.
Dark. When I was a small child, I was afraid of the dark. Now I work in the pitch dark every night. I split sleep. I sleep till like 1 a.m. I work till 5, and then I go back to bed. I just laugh in the dark. And it's true. You don't care about the dark anymore because they can't touch you.
Yeah, you know what? And people don't realize that you are alive. The fact that you are alive, you're already better than them. The fact that you're in the light, you feel warmth on your skin. And remember, if you even believe there could be a God, or you're searching for God, your light will just grow and grow and grow.
God is right there inside you. When God fills you, there's no room for any negativity.
It's true. It's like I can't even convince my own family there's a God. And I guess that's their journey. I try, but they just don't want, and that's okay. That's okay. Everybody's on this path. We're all doing it ourselves. I think it is a personal journey. And, when all these things were happening to us, when my son, Jake, saw the world end, but there's still hope, and how sad God is that we're literally doing this to ourselves, we're on a personal journey. And I think we were all, even though we have this family and we have brothers and sisters, I realize now that we're all on our own and everyone is individual. And I can't really persuade anybody either which way. People like you, Roberta, very, very helpful, because when these things were happening to me, I actually didn't know where to go. And I was too embarrassed to talk to anybody about it. And is this stuff really real? Because, he was 13, he's now 28. I mean, back then, I think that was up then. It could be even Google back then. I had to just put in the computer, what is this? What is this? And I'm trying to find out what's going on and finding information. But, I went actually and spent time with a Catholic monk, and he looked just like Friar Tuck too. He had the little brown robe on, a little tie, and he was way cool. And I explained a few things to him. He was fascinated with it. And we took time with rabbis. I spent 3 months with a synagogue, and they were totally cool people. And they just taught us stuff. And then I went to some church. It's the church, The Beach in Southern California. And they were groovy. Didn't know a lot, but they were groovy. And then, of course, I went to the LDS church as well. And that was different. It
was different for sure.
But I realized something. I don't need a church. I don't need a man to tell me when to pray. I don't need a man to tell me when to pay my tithe. I actually do pay good tithe to widows, and I help people. Unbelievable. I do it because I know it's the right thing to do. I don't need a man or a group to keep my house blessed or clean. I can do that myself. And I think that we get too relied on religion, and I don't know why they do that. I do feel from everything we learned, we do need to start something where we can just teach people about God. And he's a cool dude. And when you get to know him, oh my gosh, things are happening to me that, are you kidding me? I'm not that smart. And here I am kicking butt all over the world. I'm doing amazing things. And so life is just awesome. And I'm grateful for all the stuff that happened. And yeah, you can turn this negative into a real good positive.
Every single thing that happens in your life is either love or a call for love.
Yep.
That's all it is. Isn't this beautiful? We have so run out of time. I am so sorry. We could talk all day.
We could next time.
Yes, next time.
Hey, I appreciate you.
Well, I appreciate you too, my sweet. Now tell me, what would you like people to remember from our conversation?
Well, I would love them to read my book because there's some really cool pictures that Sydney, who is a bit of an artist, drew. And the story about God's trying to tell us something and we're not listening. And why did he come to Jake? Old men will have visions, young men will have dreams. Read his dream. And then tune into Supernatural History TV. We're on all the platforms. And let us teach you more about things that we've learned. Because, like Roberta here, God's cool. And there's a way to keep these demons away and have a fantastic, awesome life. And I'm just grateful I got an opportunity to talk to you. You're an amazing person. And thank you.
Well, I want you to stay right there because I need you to give me your podcast name so I can put it in the notes.
Okay.
I just have to, for a minute, go and tell everyone who will be our guest next week. So you just stay right there. And everyone, this hasn't this been fun? This has been Roberta Grimes, and this has been Seek Reality, and we've just been having a very good time talking about some somewhat unpleasant things, but yes, demons are real, and most of them, if not all of them, were once people. Jesus knew how to deal with them better than we do, but we can deal with them too, and the way we deal with them is by following his instructions very carefully about growing spiritually. Please never forget, my wonderful friends, this has been what I'm trying very hard to do, which is to help you to grow out of the need to even worry about demons. You never began, my dear ones, you never will end. And when you get that, when you really, really get it, it's going to change. I promise you everything in your life for the better. Next week, our guest will be our wonderful, beautiful friend, Sandra Champlain, and she'll be with us for, I think it's like the 35th time. And she's going to be with us to share with you a very special book, which was channeled through a friend of hers. I've forgotten the title, and I didn't write it down, but she'll be sharing with you something next week, which she started to share with me, and I said, hey, this is something that belongs to the world. So she's going to share with you a book which was channeled, and which will tell us both something really beautiful, because it came through spirit. And this week our guest has been Allie Crawford, here to talk about her surprising and really helpful new book called Heaven Help Us. The book talks about her spiritual growth, which has transformed her, as you can see, in beautiful ways. And while we generally talk about spirituality only in a sort of beautiful, helpful, and positive light, because the only reason we come to Earth really is to grow spiritually, I think it's helpful sometimes if we talk about the negative things that also can happen to us. Because A, I think it's easy to avoid those things if we know what they are, and B, I think that it helps us to really appreciate the plan that there is for us when we understand how we can counter the things that might go wrong. And when you read that book, and when you, having now met Allie and seeing what it's done for her to go through some of these things, I think we can see how the darker side really kind of helps us in very positive ways. And this also kind of brings me to talk about Craig, too. Craig Hogan is the president and guru of Seek Reality Online. And as you know, we're all going to go, hopefully, ideally, to the same wonderful place. It's possible for us to avoid it. And if you don't want to avoid it, you can, but you don't want to turn into a demon either, my dear friends. So let's learn about the positive, wonderful place to which we're going next. And Craig is the best person to tell us. So go to Seek Reality Online and learn about what's coming next. And I wish I could talk to you about my books. I wish I could talk to you about some other things like teachingsbyjesus.com, but there's just no more time because we've been having too much fun. Allie and I have been. So this has been Seek Reality with Roberta Grimes. Please enjoy me. Please make the most of this coming week in our one reality, always knowing that you are an eternal being. You never, ever are going to die, and you most of all in this entire universe, you in particular, are infinitely, eternally, and perfectly loved.
You've been listening to Seek Reality with Roberta Grimes. Roberta blogs and answers questions at robertagrimes.com. Join us every week as we explore what the afterlife evidence and modern science combine to tell us is true about the one reality we all share. Knowing the truth changes everything.